Claude Carignan must have asked Chrystia Freeland about 20 times who came up with the Emergency Act invocation. Chrystia Freeland responds over and over with the same answer: it was a collective agreement by cabinet. Our Minister of Finance doesn't have the figures of damages during the protest in Ottawa. She was questioned on asking the United States for tow trucks and invoking the act after the blockades were already cleared. Here's the clip.
Senator. Move to Senator Carignan for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Minister, you said that it's the Council of Ministers that decided to declare the Emergencies Act. On what date? I want to be precise. Was it the 13th of February meeting? You are correct. At what time was that meeting held? 8:30 p.m. You know, at 8:30 p.m. the Ambassador Bridge was totally open? Yes. How did you react to the fact that you declared the Emergencies Act whereas the bridge was open? You had that information. You knew that the road could be used. So there are other ways of opening up a bridge than adopting an Emergencies Act. At that time, we received information that efforts were being made continuously to block other commercial roads between Canada and the United States, and we continually heard about efforts to block the roads. That is important. And secondly, as you know, the illegal occupation of Ottawa, our national capital, was in effect at the time the decision was made. At the time you took the decision on the 13th of February in the evening, you knew that the Ambassador Bridge had been unblocked and that the authorities, with the resources and tools they had at that time, were able to unblock the road. You knew that. From my point of view, what was important to me was that at that time, there was a constant danger of new blockades. I remember that there was a blockade, one blockade after another. And it was really a danger to have continuous blockades on the border. And I also like to underscore the fact that there was the reality of the fact that our national capital was occupied was also serious. The conversations you had with the American government, I take it that they offered tow trucks. Can you confirm that information? They offered you tow trucks to tow away vehicles? When I spoke directly with the representatives of the American government, the central message was a high level of concern. My question is, did they give you tow trucks and did you accept them? In the conversations they had with me, those conversations concerned trade between Canada and the United States. It was important for senior officials. What about the tow trucks? I discussed possibilities with the United States, possibilities for the United States to help us. But it's difficult for me to underscore to what extent it was important for the Americans. They spoke with me. They told me that for them it was a serious danger and it was important with them to communicate with me. We all agree with you, Madam Freeland. That was resolved before the Emergencies Act. That's the beauty of it. My question has to do with the tow trucks. A minister told us that there were exchanges and that the American government offered us tow trucks. I want to know if that discussion was with you. I've answered that question. The discussions with me targeted the economic impact, and I proposed that it may be possible for the Americans to help us. But the conversations with me focused on the economy. I'll try another question, which was put to you already. You are Minister of Finance. Do you have the figures when it comes to giving us figures about the economic impact of the measures that were taken, the blockade, besides quoting reports? At the time when the decision was made, did you have any figures? I'm talking about the figures of a figure. The question was put to you in English. I'm putting it to you in French. I have many figures in my head because it was clear that there were damages every day. But I also like to say two other things.
And your time is.
The Minister of Public Safety told us that the government invoked the Emergency Act following advice from the forces of law and order. Did you invoke the Emergencies Act following advice from the forces of law and order? I did not personally receive any such advice. Did the Minister of Public Safety tell you that the forces of law and order were proposing to you that you invoke the Emergencies Act? We had lots of conversations, group conversations, but I do not recall any such discussion. So I understand that you do not remember that the Minister of Public Safety might have told you that the forces of law and order asking us to invoke the Emergencies Act. I do not personally recall any such discussion. So, personally, do you remember who proposed to you that you invoke the Emergencies Act? For me, I'll be very clear. It is important for me. Well, it was a decision by cabinet, a collective decision. Well, so who had the brilliant idea that that had to be done? Who proposed that first? One moment, please. It was a collective decision. But at that time and today, and I'm talking of the reality for me, I would like to take the personal responsibility for that decision. It was my opinion. It was a correct decision. But are you the one who came up with the idea? We had lots of discussions, but I think it's important for the government. But my question is, are you the one who came up with the idea for the Emergencies Act? Mr. Senator, ultimately, it was a very serious decision and a political decision. And it was a decision taken at a political level. But I don't want to avoid responsibility. I'm ready to say that I was in agreement with the decision when it was taken, and even today I agree with that decision. We did the right thing. I understood that a long time ago, that you were in agreement. Who came up with the idea? Who made that proposal? We had lots of conversations. It was an emergency situation, and we had lots of conversations about that. Who proposed that bank accounts be frozen? Once again, we had lots of discussions. Mr. Hader and Mr. Fortin also asked me why it took so much time. Lots of discussions were had within the department. We had lots of conversations with other colleagues. Every day, every time, we were wondering